Welcome back to another Road Rage episode, guys. Today we are back in the garage, and we're going to show you how to do a disc brake conversion. If you have not seen this video right here, this video shows you how I did mine on Gbody V, and today we're going to go over why the one on Seth's car isn't properly working, and that is because 9 out of 10 they didn't use this. This tool here makes your life a whole lot easier and allows you to properly get everything working so that it is not a soggy brake. And yeah, let's get right into it, man. As always, guys, if you're new to the channel, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, man. Be part of the Rage Squad. And if you're a returning viewer, man, just go ahead and hit the like button for me. Show me a little support, give me a little motivation to keep these videos going. I'm gonna show you the supporting mods that you need when you're doing a disc to disc conversion on a Gbody, man. This will make your life a whole lot easier. Let's get right into it. Alright, guys, many of you guys know that you must get a new proportional valve on these Gbodies or any car when you're converting to a full disc setup. Most of these cars came with a disc to drum proportional valve, and don't quote me on the numbers, but that normally means you get 70 or 80% of the clamping force goes to the front, and then another 10 to 20 goes to the rear, to the drums. That's because if it got over pressure, the drums would actually lock up. As many of you guys know, that tends to happen. Those are normally signs that your proportional valve is going bad or something's happening there. But so when you don't do that and you have disc brakes, you will notice if you have your car in the air and you put your feet on the brakes, put your car in drive, the rear will continue to spin, and that's just because it's not getting enough clamping force because the proportional valve that you have is for a drum brakes. Well, you get one of these PV4s. I'll put a link in the description. This is a disc to disc, so this does a 50-50 ratio for the clamping, but a lot of people don't know that you have to, if you really want to do this right where your brakes are not spongy, get a proportional valve bleeding screw, and I'm going to show you guys how to install that, what it's good for, and how you should proceed forward with it, man. Let's get right into this and let's do the whole job. Let's get it. Here you got the try to do this one hand. Here you got the proportional valve. First thing you want to do before installing it is remove the I forgot what they call it. I think it's like the light valve. This is like what triggers your light in the old school dashes, like when something's going on or it's not getting enough pressure. So you don't really want to over tighten these when you put them back in, but when they do come, you may need a plier or something just to slightly loosen it. They're not really tight. You might be able to get it out with your hands. Definitely put this away for safekeeping. When you go to reinstall it, make sure that the O-ring is lubed. It should come with some sort of lube already in it. It's hard to really see, but it should have a little bit of residue left over. You simply want to put this in there. And then proceed to installing this and doing your bleeding job. You could install it afterwards. After you install this, you put this in so you can do your bleeding job, but it's just a lot easier to do it now. And what this does is it helps prevent, there's a little ball in here from tripping while you're bleeding. I forgot what actually happens, but I think it starts to spin around and shit just goes all wrong. But yeah, this is really what you use this for. Afterwards, we're going to put this back on after we get done installing it. I'm really hoping I don't have to pull the rims off. I do know these have several bleeding points with the Willwood brakes. There are typically one in the front and one in the back, obviously in the backs also, because I do think they're not really directional. I think they make them so you can just flip them over. There's no right or left caliper, if I'm not mistaken, and that's why they do it like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to bleed it from the back without removing the wheels. I'm really dreading that. If I have to, I will. But yeah, let's get right into it, guys. Let's get this thing installed and see how it performs. All right, guys, here's the old proportional valve. When I spoke to the owner of the car and told him about the brakes, he said, yeah, man, it's always been like that. Everybody has mentioned it. Everybody has bled it everywhere I went. It still turns out the same. Not really sure what's going on. And I said, well, let me take a look. And this is what I saw. It's like, well, your proportional valve was never swapped out. I'm not sure how every shop you went to knew to go ahead and bleed it, but never check the proportional valve. So, but that's neither here or there. I'm gonna go ahead and get some bolts, not bolts, but get a ratchet to remove this. Those look like 13s, and it looks like it should be like 2 or 3 of them, no more than 3. I think it's just a 2 in the middle, to be honest. This is your plug that goes into the, which is not necessary for his car anymore because he has Dakota. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and let that loosen it so I can kind of bring it down a little bit, and get these lines disconnected and reconnected to the new one, get it back up, and I'll cut you guys back on. All right, guys, so I have the, let's see if I can get a better shot. Nah, I think this is the best shot. I have the 13 millimeter bolts out. Guys, make sure, and I mean make sure you have some tubing wrenches. This is what I hope that's the actual name. This is what I've always known them as, tubing wrenches, and you know they are, just because they have the slit, you know, they're not fully closed, and this allows you to go into the line and then over onto the bolt. This also makes sure that you're not stripping. It helps you make sure you're not stripping anything. I believe there are 11s, and I think this might be the only one that's different. I think that's either a 12 or 13, but get you a set of these. Actually, I can actually put a link on the description where I got these. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the 2 at the top. I really wish I could get you guys just a better video. Here we go. So as you can see, there's one right there, and one on this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can knock those 2 out, and then also be very careful when you put them back in so you don't strip anything, because that'll be a nightmare. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can knock those out, so I can go ahead and let this thing down and get the new proportional valve installed, and yeah, be done. All right, guys, here we got finally got the old one out. That's what the factory one looks like, and I don't think I've ever seen. Oh, they do. I forgot who makes it. They do have one like this with the adjustable valve. I was gonna say, a lot of times you don't see the shape anymore, so you kind of know when it hasn't been changed. But yeah, so this is the factory one. Yep, it is the 2 screws, 13s. Then I think it's a 14, 11, and a 15 for the different lines. Let me just get that for you guys. Here they go. I believe this is the biggest. This is a 15. These 2 are 11s on the end, and then the middle is a 14. Or I might be wrong. This is a 14, 13, and 11. But this also makes it very hard to get this one in, just because it kind of butts up against it. So this, man, I'll probably never do another one like this, especially on my back. And every time I have done it, I have done it while the car was literally taken apart right before the LS swap, because you kind of know if you're going disc brakes by then, or while we have one of the frames off. But I do think this is one of the things that made it the hardest, because it was hell trying to push and get this out the way. As you can see, being it's so thick, it just hits up against the frame, doesn't give much room. The hole is right up here, so as you know, this needs to come when it mounts, this has to come like right up into that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in. So the same way you took it out, it's the same way you put it back in. So essentially you're gonna be putting it in like this, that 40 degree. It's gonna be like this, and essentially that's how it's gonna go back in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that in. I'll probably take off the screw, the bleeder screw out, just so I can get a better angle to put it in. I'm gonna see if I can get a better angle to put those lines back in without cross stripping them, cross threading them. Also, guys, after you use the piping to loosen them up so that you don't strip it, you can. Well, what I had to do was had to switch over to the minis, because now that they're loose and you broke them loose, you can you know, finish it off with this. This makes it a lot easier instead of the pipe ones. And we'll do the same thing, we'll put them back with this, but when we're going to tighten it up, we'll definitely switch over again. So yep, this is what we have. I'm gonna go ahead and get those in. This is a pain, I'm telling you guys, doing it on your back for sure, and doing it with the headers in the way. But let's get right into it, and we'll get to bleeding the brakes. All right, guys, so I finally got it in. Man, this shit whooped my butt. I'm actually surprised that as many times as I've done this, this is actually the first time I've done it on my back, for one, and then number two, where it's been this painful. But honestly, I'm not actually sure why. I feel like they bent the wires at some point, because as you can see, none of them are actually bolted. They braced the frame, so I'm assuming they kind of kicked everything out. Also, that added more tension. But yeah, man, this thing kicked my butt. I'm not gonna actually bolt it to the frame quite yet until I do the brake bleeding. I also want to see if there's any leaks, so I can be able to go ahead and tighten those up without having to take it all back apart. So let me go ahead and get started on the bleeding, and I'll get back to you guys. Guys, the bleeding is all done. I couldn't get the bleed kit. If you guys are familiar with the, well, I had a mess going on, but you know, one of those generic bleed pumps, vacuum pumps. Couldn't get it to work, so I just had my wife help me with the old school way. Go ahead, you know, the good old three pump and hold, and then I release the bleed screw, let all the air come out till you get a steady stream of brake fluid coming out with no bubbles, no hissing, no popping. So that's what we went ahead and did. Looks like I have a little small leak right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten that up, bolt this back in place where it belongs, and we'll be done with this thing. Fire it up and give the brakes a try.